stranded on an alien planet, no Tardis, no plan. Let's get to work. Doctor Who Series 11 continues with episode 2, The Ghost Monument. Let's kind of jump to the end and then work our way back to it. I like this a lot. I like it notably better than I did with The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Not that I thought that was a bad episode, but having now watched it a few more times after my initial viewing, it's just kind of fine. I've seen more than a few people call that episode Torchwood-esque. I'm not sure it is in terms of the overall episode, but it certainly does feel more akin to Torchwood in its depiction of Earth and, that community. The way it depicted Sheffield felt kind of on par with what you would expect of it in Torchwood, especially weird moments like the friggin' salad guy. I don't know what was going on with that. But this, while I'm not going to say this feels more like Doctor Who, this does not feel like not Doctor Who, if that makes sense. It's very obvious that they are trying a lot of new things in terms of the presentation, certainly the visual look of it. There's a lot more dynamic things going on here. There's a lot of handheld camera work, which is not automatically a better way to do it, but Doctor Who, with a couple of episode exceptions scattered across its run, modern era Doctor Who had kind of fallen into a very standard shooting format, and they seem to be looking to shake that up here. They're getting more stylized with the shooting, which I think is overall a perfectly fine thing to try out. And whereas last episode that ended up feeling like Torchwood, this, while not necessarily automatically feeling more like Doctor Who, doesn't feel specifically like another show that I can name, or at least I can't from my own point of reference. So the feel of it is more on par. Jody Whittaker, I'm still not sure that I've had the moment that I wanted to have from her, but I have had some. I have had some good moments with her now, and she's like, I like her better. And again, I didn't dislike her last episode. She's growing on me more. I think the moment that I really did enjoy was that she's snapping at this guy, basically trying to tell him, look, I know how we can land your ship, and if you don't let me do it, we're all gonna die. And Yaz is behind her, just like, wait, what? Oh, hi, Yaz, didn't realize you were there. Everything's gonna be fine. And then turns back and starts yelling at the guy again. Loved that. And that sort of bounce back and forth, that balance between her desire to keep everybody okay, yet her need to get in there and get control and make sure that actually ends up being the case. It's kind of an interesting balance. I've seen some people label her already, and this is 2 episodes in, so it's a little early for me, but I've seen some people label her the empathetic Doctor, which she might end up being. I'm going to keep an eye on it kind of with that in mind, because that's an approach that if I'd known going in, I would have been very cautious of, because the Doctor being overly empathetic I'm not going to say he's never empathetic, but that's not usually an inherent trait. He cares about people, but he doesn't usually get them. You know what I mean? But if that's the angle they're going for, so far it's certainly working for me. I also like kind of watching her annoyance at wanting some answers, and in some instances talking to people that she has them, but they're not going to tell her, and just her frustration with that. Just knowing that there's information that's available that she doesn't have. And again, that's kind of riding a fine line, because it could have come across at annoyed at not knowing, which again would have not been very doctorish, because the Doctor kind of gets excited when they don't know something. I think when I refer to the Doctor now in a more global sense, I might start using they. I don't know. I just kind of did it there. As I'm figuring this out as I go. In any case, traditionally the Doctor tends to get very excited not knowing something. Whereas here, the Doctor doesn't quite get annoyed at not knowing, but she does get annoyed knowing that she's lacking information. She could probably deal with the fact that she doesn't know, but knowing that there are tidbits that she is not privy to, that frustrated her. And I liked watching that. That played out pretty well. The companions are working pretty well. I still am of the opinion that it's a little crowded, that 3 is too many. And of the 3 currently here, if I were to point at a dead weight, seems like too harsh a word, but if I were to point at the one who's not pulling their weight right now, it would be Yaz. with Ryan and Graham, I really am enjoying them, particularly for their dynamic. And that really does feel like something that we can watch develop and watch their relationship as they come to better terms with each other over the course of the series. That really feels like there's room for growth there. And because you get a good sense of where it is, you get a good sense of where a better place for it to be. And I like their dynamic overall, especially when it came to talking about Graham's wife, Ryan's grandmother, because, Ryan is young enough to think that he's got it figured out and just decide, I don't want to talk about this. And Graham is old enough to know that, no, you kind of have to talk about it whether you want to or not. And I'm enjoying their dynamic as a whole. Yaz is not devoid of decent moments, but comparatively, she's had way less so far. Like, she really only had one moment that I really kind of enjoyed, which was she actually sort of paused and asked one of these people in this intergalactic race, about her planet, where she was from. And that, I think, that was the one moment that felt like, okay, that feels like, I guess, almost kind of pulling in her policing, like, sit them down, talk them out, get on their side, convince them you're not their enemy, talk them down. And she has that moment, but it is just a moment. And certainly compared to how many moments I felt that Ryan and Graham had, it's not nearly as much. As far as the overall setup of this episode, it's not like super unique or original. It's just really well assembled. So if I were to compare it to the first episode wasn't particularly unique either and was decently assembled. This one is not especially unique on paper, but is just put together much better. I think both from writing and directing avenues. So we've got, basically, the great race, or I don't know, I don't watch reality TV shows or whatever that is, basically in space, and there's only 2 left and down, trying to get this prize, and they're on this planet. Everything can possibly kill them. And I like the difference between, someone who is doing this because, well, you can't trust anybody and this is his way of becoming truly self-sufficient, and the other one doing it because if I get this prize, I can help the people I love. And I surprisingly liked the hologram of the guy who's running the thing. I liked him a lot, actually, for even the little tiny bits that we get him. Like, I really loved at the end where the two of them, spoilers, I am going to talk about the end and talk about all this. Like, if you're watching this review and not, like, okay, all right, I'll hold off on that for a second. So, before I get into spoilers, overall, very good. Before I have to get into things that are flat out spoilers, opening credits. I love them. Holy cow, they're gorgeous. I love the new orchestration on the theme as well. It's really cool. What I really like about the look, actually, because having been working on getting back through classic, that whole sort of folding in and out thing, it's really super reminiscent of old Doctor Who intros, like first and second Doctor, sort of like Rorschach looking thing. I really, really dig that. I think it's gorgeous. I'm not going to be like best one ever, but it's definitely one of the best ones of the modern era. Certainly, it still feels like Doctor Who, but it is distinctly different. I dig it a lot. And the other stuff, I'll consider that spoilerish. So, yeah, I like this a lot. This was, for me, a notable step up from the previous episode, which was already decent. So this gets me much more excited for what's going to come next. So getting into things that do count as spoilers. What was I going to say? Oh, so there was the thing that I really liked at the end, where after the 2 people win the race, and they're like, oh, and get these guys off this planet too. And the guy's just like, no. And, boom, and they're gone. I just loved his attitude. Like, look, I'll help you out a little bit, but not that much. I liked that. It made him, an antagonistic figure without making him a complete, villain. And I like the new Tardis interior as well. I'm not sure I completely love the lighting on it. I feel like it's lit a little dark. I don't know. Except, I don't know, the Tardis for most of New Who, I think really except for Matt Smith's first TARDIS interior has tended to be on the darker side. Maybe it's the fact that it's the warmer colors. I think I got really used to like the dark lighting, but with blues and greens, which is what we got with the version of the TARDIS that was for Matt Smith's last series and for all of Capaldi's run. So maybe it's the combination of it being dark and also the shift from cooler to warmer colors. Again, not bad. And I do like the design. I think the design's very cool. I kind of like that they've got a crystal thing running between, the Doctor's Sonic with the visible crystal on the end of it, and now the interior of the TARDIS. I have no doubt, and I'm gonna make it a headcanon thing, at least for me, that the TARDIS picked up on the design of the Sonic screwdriver and was like, okay, I can work with that, and gave us what we got. We didn't get, and I suspect we probably never will, an actual reason why the Doctor was dumped out of the TARDIS, because I'm going to fall back on what I've kind of always assumed. It did it so that it could set up an opening of the new series where the Doctor doesn't have the TARDIS. Just for the same reason it blew up. For no reason. It was a meta reason. It wasn't a narrative reason. It was a meta reason of we want an excuse to redesign it, which is stupid because they've redesigned it without blowing it up before anyway. The transition for the Matt Smith one I just talked about, they didn't blow it up before they did that. And, we want her to be without the TARDIS, so we'll just have a dumper. I suspect there is not actually a narrative justification for that, which is a little bit frustrating because it does read very much as a deliberate thing with the TARDIS feeling like it was dumping her, and it's kind of if there's not going to be an explanation for what that was, I really would have rather that they hadn't had it, because it just sort of, I don't know, it stands out now as a weird moment in hindsight, but I don't know, maybe it'll be dealt with later. There is one other thing that has the potential to annoy me. We'll see. One of the things that I liked in the lead up to this new series was that it was said that they weren't going to do a series arc, not this series at the very least. Except I saw the planting of two things that really feel like mystery box elements, things that are going to crop up repeatedly across the series, and that was tying in the sort of weapons development planet in with the alien that Tim Shaw was from the previous episode, which if they're not going to do something more with that, that's a weird connection to make because he wasn't that intimidating, and as one guy he didn't feel like he represented a society that we should be afraid of, so I have to assume that his race is going to come back. So that is becoming a through line. But then the other thing is when the sort of cloths that could wrap around people's heads to suffocate them, which was actually well planted, by the way. I did notice the cameras kept lingering on these things, but they looked so much like shredded scraps of clothes. I assumed that was going to be revealed to be, all that was left of people who'd been here before. To actually have those turn out to be weapons, that was kind of cool, and it was seeded early on, as a visual element. But when they're sort of speaking, which is a little bit weird and contrived in and of itself, especially because it feels like it may only have been done to plant this whole idea of the timeless child. We can see things about you that you don't even want to acknowledge. And I'm sitting here going, this really, 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 really sounds and feels like mystery box planting. And I've expressed my frustration and my annoyance and my just being sick of the mystery box as a way of doing a series arc in the past. And if they end up doing it this series after, indications were that they weren't, then all the leaders are like, no, we're not going to do that this series. That's going to annoy me. Same reason I'm going to get annoyed if the Daleks turn up after we've been told, oh, no, there aren't going to be Daleks this series. Well, I appreciate wanting to give fans a surprise. I appreciate keeping things, close to the vest. What I don't appreciate is being flat out lied to. I'm sorry. I'm always going to be resentful of that because then, it leaves you going, oh, but it's really this. See, we were so clever. We fooled you. No, you didn't fool me. You lied to me. There's a difference. You showed me. You did for me what that guy's mother did for him. You are teaching me not to trust you. So, man, I should tie that in nicely. I am more proud of myself for that than I should be. But that again, that may only be, well, that's going to be one of two complaints about this episode, because either those things are seeding series-long stuff, in which case I'm going to resent the series overall because we were told this wasn't going to go on, and now it's going on, and I was ready to be done with this kind of stuff at the very least for one series. Or, alternately, this isn't building for series stuff. You know, the Timeless Child doesn't mean anything, and the fact that this was that same race doesn't matter, in which case, why would you make that connection? It didn't add anything to this story, which is otherwise a good, solid, strong story. And I really liked finding out that the Ghost Monument was the Tardis. I don't know why I didn't call that in advance. I was actually trying to figure out, I wonder how they're, at the end of this, how are they going to get to the Tardis? But to have it just be, I feel like they revealed that at just the right moment, where if they'd waited much longer, I might have come to that conclusion on my own, but they did that reveal. I'm like, oh, nice. So again, overall, despite some gripes and nitpicks and concerns on my part, I really like this episode. I liked it a lot. And I'm hoping that this is the pace that we can keep. I feel like the whole thing just felt better once it got off Earth, which inherently makes me slightly nervous for the next episode, knowing it's a historical set episode on Earth, because Earth is a setting where I tend to not enjoy the Doctors, at least in modern era, nearly as much. And I really tend to not like the historical set episodes. It's the rare exception that I do. Oh, the Venusian Aikito's back. That was a nice touch, too. Yeah, but we'll see. But dealing with this episode as a self-contained episode, it's good. It's quite good. I liked it quite a bit. There are things that I'm going to keep an eye on for down the line in terms of some of these characters and some of these plot things, which may or may not come back. And I'll have my opinions on those as we go along. But I think I will wrap it up there. I probably forgot one or two things that I meant to mention and didn't, but what can you do? So that'll wrap it up, folks. The Ghost Monument, what did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts were, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do because there's buttons and there's links, including a link to my Patreon if you feel like supporting me in that fashion. If you don't, though, don't sweat it. There's other stuff you can check out. And in any case, folks, you're the council and I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.